You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cricket Podcast for our 2024 IPL team previews. This is the second team we're getting to now. Long way to go, so the enthusiasm is still sky high at Cricket Podcast Towers. We're going to move on to the Mumbai Indians now, and I'm excited to see them play. They will be coached and captained by Boucher and Hardik Pandya. Now, this is a controversy in and of itself because Rohit Sharma, the veteran of 163 games as captain, has been dropped by Mumbai in that role. Ross, you love a bit of controversy. Before we even get into the detail of this team, what were your thoughts when that news rocked your world?
I thought it was quite an astute move. I think Mumbai Indians have had a couple of years where you're a bit like, really, have they made that decision? But typically and historically, they've been ones where you can kind of respect some of the cricketing decisions they have gone about and the team building they have gone around. And I think for here, they're looking to secure the legacy, right? Rohit Sharma probably declining as a T20 player. You want to attract the best talent, and Hardik Pandya off the back of a Champions win and a runners-up medal for Gujarat Titans as captain in that space offers something that Rohit Sharma ultimately doesn't, right? He's a batter and a bowler when he can actually bowl, and he's a few years younger than Rohit, so it gives a little bit of succession planning. So overall, I thought it was a really quite astute move from Mumbai, and you just hope that it doesn't rock the kind of the cliques in the dressing room that sometimes people say exist.
Well, that was Jagan's question from Twitter. Specifically asked us about whether it would rock the dressing room and whether there'd be a schism in the Mumbai Indians camp. And actually, if you look at this team, that might be one of the only ways that they fail, or one of the ways that they fail. Thank you for answering that, Ross. I was hoping, to be honest, for more firebrand stuff, shock jock Ross, outrage, but it was a well considered and thoughtful answer. So I don't know.
No more TVR. I'm a Skoda Octavia now.
The kit review, they're going to play in blue, and you're not going to believe this, fellas. They're going to have some gold trim. I think I'm modelling the jersey from 5 years ago or something like that. It looks a bit like that if you're watching on YouTube. Just Google it if you're into kits. Strengths wise, where to start when it comes to strengths? They've probably got the two most valuable domestic players, and maybe the two most valuable players in the tournament, full stop. Hardik Pandya and Jasprit Bumrah. As far as we know as well, both of them are going to be fit to play in this. Obviously, both have had injury problems over the last 12 months, but it appears that they're both going to play. If that wasn't enough, they've probably got the third most valuable player as well, Surya Kumar Yadav, who blitzes, doesn't he? I think that's the way to describe Surya Kumar Yadav. He blitzes. And then you can add in a supporting cast, which includes Tim David, Tilak Varma, Gerald Kurtzayer, Rohit Sharma, Ishan Kishan, and probably about 7 other guys I've missed off. There's not really a guy in there where you're like, wow, that's stunningly bad, which is a little bit different to the last.
At least not one who's going to play.
Yeah. Oh no, I mean, like that's a good point, Matt. So it brings us on to the weaknesses, because this is quite a top-heavy side in terms of where the talent lies. Like, I don't know how they're going to divide the team bus. Maybe they'll have 2 buses, one for the people that will actually play and one for the rest of them. Maybe the good players will get the back of the bus. Or maybe
one will get air conditioning. The other one's you can open the window, mate.
Maybe there'll be some kind of buddy system so that a good player gets a make up the numbers guy to carry their kit around so that there's less risk of an injury. I'm not sure how it's going to work, but there's basically sort of 12, 13 really talented players, and then some blokes who are there as well, including Arjun Tendulkar, if you want my opinion on him. They've got a couple of other weaknesses as well. I'd say the spin department, and last year we called this out, and then Piyush Chawla, took
rolled back the years.
Rolled back the years. And so I'm going to give Piyush Chawla the benefit of the doubt to start the season. However, I would say that bigger picture, it is a relatively thin spin bowling contingent that they have. And then if you look at Piyush Chawla's numbers in a little bit more detail as well, last year they managed to get him to bowl 2/3 of his overs to right-handers. So they got him in some really good matchup-specific positions and situations. Against righties, his economy is 7.7 and he averages 21. Against lefties, his economy shoots up to 9 and he averages 30. If that goes a little bit iffy, the backup leg spinner is Shreyas Gopal, who I don't know. I mean, the last I saw him,
he's had a season or two when he's good, but
yeah, 5 or 6 years ago. Like I don't know. Maybe there's a reclamation thing. Maybe they saw something in Piyush Chawla that they saw something in Shreyas Gopal and we'll see a similar trajectory. Like that does happen in sports. You get a coach that recognizes that a player has residual talent and sorts it out. So there's a little run through the strengths and weaknesses, and we'll have a discussion about them in a second. I'm going to put forward the Audi TT as my car for the Mumbai Indians. Now, Ross, you're laughing. I don't know why really here. Maybe this was a terrible call, but in my mind, the Audi TT, that's quite a good car, but nobody who isn't driving an Audi TT really likes them. And actually quite a lot of people hate them. They're sort of notorious for having dickhead drivers and
right.
Yeah, that's my reasoning there. Fellas, so far that's what I'm laying out. There's a few talking points in here. There's the Hardik Pandya trade. I don't know if anyone wants to weigh in on that one again. I still think that's one of the craziest decisions ever made in sports, but it really benefits Mumbai. So that's the thing. And then there's a bunch more stuff. I'm going to pause, take a breath, throw the ball to you, Max, and hear what you have to say about Mumbai Indians.
Yeah, I think it's the glaring issue is the spin, isn't it? I mean, we said the same last year and we were proven wrong, but you still look at that and maybe the issue is not that it's a glaring weakness, it's a glaring step down in quality from everything else they've got. Their batting is insane. Their pace bowling has Jasprit Bumrah and is therefore insane, even if the understudy is Jason Behrendorff and he had an incredible year last year out of nowhere. And they've just picked up Gerald Kurtzer, who's looking like being well, not necessarily a superstar, but a properly good international cricketer for South Africa. And their backup in Madhushankar is the guy who came in the top 5 wicket takers in the ODI World Cup for a team that lost almost all their games, which is quite impressive on its own. So perhaps it is just a comparison thing. Like the rest of their side is so good, their spin is fine. Maybe not the best. There are other sides that have got their specialty is their spin bowlers. But if everything else about your team is so good, if you're putting so many runs on the board, you have to be more aggressive against Mumbai spinners. That brings them into the game more and makes them more effective because you have to take more risks and you risk getting out more. Maybe that's the crux of why actually their spinners last year were quite competitive. That's the sort of where I'm landing on them. But I mean, ultimately they're a really solid side. I think what they do with the impact sub is going to be quite interesting for me and how that lands, because we were looking at it earlier and it's not immediately clear what they would do. There are a few different options, but it's not immediately clear how it improves the side. And I think that comes back to what you were saying about having like a bunch of good guys and then some blokes.
Yeah, shall I go through a possible playing 11? Because I think tactically it's quite interesting what they could do to kind of cover a little bit of a weakness. I mean, like last year as well, just to point out, there'll be some people being like, they were terrible at the death last year and stuff like that. And it's like, well, Bumrah didn't play a single game. And they didn't have Hardik Pandya. So they've got 2 quite big upgrades when it comes to seam bowling. So I've taken that off my list. My playing 11, Rohit Sharma. If he isn't in a rage and refusing to play, obviously. Ishan Kishan, Tilak Varma, Hardik Pandya, Surya Kumar Yadav, Tim David. So that top 6, not necessarily sure they'll all bat in that order, but that's who'll be in the top 6.
Yeah.
Curveball at 7 potentially, but I think they might need to do this to balance the team. Mohammed Nabi, 39-year-old auction pickup Mohammed Nabi, and then a bowling core of Gerald Kurtzer, Jasprit Bumrah, Piyush Chawla, and then probably Behrendorff, but maybe Madhushankar, 2 sort of left arm options. there. I've got down that they could play Carter Kea as an impact sub, which might mean that they could play Romario Shepherd and drop Naby. And, that's an option. Nish on Twitter asked, how crucial do you think Mo Naby will be to the Mumbai Indians squad when or if he plays? Ross, I think this is the kind of question that we should throw over to our resident Mohamed Naby expert.
I think he's fucking rubbish, if I'm perfectly honest. He's like, I just don't see how they've just gone, you know what? I just don't see it. Like the guys think like he's over the hill as a player, and you've got Mumbai Indians. I think that Mumbai are a Bentley, by the way, in terms of a car.
Okay.
I think they are gaudy. They are luxurious, and they really don't give a shit about what anyone else thinks of them. And they kind of have like this air above. They're almost like there's a classism to Mumbai Indians, and I think that represents kind of the Bentleyism of this kind of analogy. When it comes to Mohamed Naby, I just think they could have done better. I think there was different options in the pool that they could have gone for, and like picking up Mohamed Naby, I was a little bit like, really, is that really where they wanted to go? Tilak Varma bowls a little bit of off spin. Not saying it's brilliant off spin, but he still bowls a little bit. Do they really need to spend their overseas slot on Mohamed Naby? I'm not quite sure they did. Romario Shepherd's having a pretty decent last 12 months. He's gone away from being kind of a throwaway player into being actually someone who's looking quite decent at the crease. But overall, Mohamed Naby, the president, has got a decent enough record for Afghanistan. He's obviously been around the IPL. There's a little bit of a CSK type pick to what Mumbai Indians have been doing. You mentioned Shreyas Gopal. You mentioned now Mohamed Naby. There is a little bit around trying to eke out the very last bits of experience and nous for it. And I'm just, I'm not convinced he's the best option that they could have done, but they are where they are.
Just to answer Tilak Varma, because I did think this as well. Over his T20 career, he's averaged less than 3 balls per game. So he's not like he can
instantly
bowl.
a good rep, isn't it? That's an unbelievable PR from Tilak Varma's people, because I'm not the only one who's thought it.
I think he bowled a fair amount in an ODI for India recently. So I think there's a bit of bowling talent there. But I'd say Mohamed Naby is
definitely a better bowler.
Probably an upgrade. Interesting your point about eking out talent from people as well. Obviously, we found this out this morning, I think. This is the last season before the mega auction. So picking up players Mohamed Naby, if you've got to keep him for 3 years, might not be, big brain cricket. But if you've got a specific position in your batting order that you want to fill, yeah, he could do a job, and he might not play all the games as well. This is another thing to factor in. Like he might be a selection for the away games for Lucknow and when they play CSK, obviously. And I don't know, maybe there'll be another ground that spins a bit more than normal as well. And so they'll have him for those games and then go for Romario Shepherd at home and then use like the impact sub. So to answer the question, actually, I when they picked him up, I thought he wouldn't play at all. Now I think he will play some.
I think it's one of those bits where they might adopt the 3 overseas players and use the impact sub to use the overseas. I think that is that the way in which I'm looking at this team. I think it was the bowler last year. Was it Madwell who kind of came in and actually did a decent enough job for them? Kind of it gives them a little bit more flexibility, I think. So again, when we're sitting here saying, "Oh, do you know what? The spin department might not be brilliant," and you've got Piyush Chawla who had a brilliant season last year, Mohamed Naby who is one of Afghanistan's kind of better players. It's not a bad weakness to have, I think.
Yeah, and the strengths are so good. I mean, like we've not spent that much time on the strengths, but it's the.
How many times can you say Sky's brilliant?
They're there for all the city, really, aren't they?
No, it's good, and like the Hardik trade to pick that up. I mean, from Mumbai's point of view, that's one of the best pieces of sports business ever pulled off. Like to get a player under contract from with another team to come, and also the best player in the league or the most valuable player in the league, to get him to just come and play for you for like what is reported to be maybe as little as $1 million
but doesn't benefit the other side in any way.
Bear in mind these are like $1 billion operations here. So for 1% of the value of your business, you've managed to get the most valuable asset in terms of making a team.
I mean, we've eviscerated Gujarat already, haven't we? We've done that a lot. For this.
Well,
more on that to come.
But I've got Gujarat later. I'm not gonna spend loads of time on it. But like there are quite a lot of people who seem to think that it was in some way good business. I mean, like, it's great for the soap opera. It's great for Mumbai Indians. Pretty
Not great
fucking
for Gujarat.
stupid for Gujarat. Yeah.
Check the pre-party invite list. I bet you all the Gujarat Titans people are on that invite list, and I reckon that must be one of those things.
Yeah,
You're going to get
wedding.
you're going to get to see Rihanna, and you're going to go to a pretty good wedding. Doesn't matter that nearly every other person in cricket is also invited, but that's not the point. They got a nice invite. I've got one question for you, Jack. Ishan Kishan. What kind of year is Ishan Kishan going to have?
Probably a decent one, I would say. I don't really think there's a reason I can think of for him to completely fall off a cliff, is there? I think Ishan Kishan is a better player than some people perhaps give him credit for. He strikes at about the league average. So last year, the IPL average batting strike rate was about 141. He struck at 142, but he gets out slightly less often than the average player, which is probably an advantageous thing for being an opener. Then you throw in two extra things, which I think are important in this, in that he's a wicketkeeper and he's left-handed. So he provides a little bit of change to the top order. He can mix up. He creates more difficult matchups for a player like Rohit Sharma, who can struggle with the ball spinning away from him. And he fills the wicket-keeping position, and he's domestic as well. So that's actually 3 bonus points there. Is he probably a little bit overpaid? Yeah, I'd say that. But
who cares?
I would expect him to probably be around the league average when it comes to strike rate, and around the league average when it comes to balls per dismissal. And when you factor in his keeping, he's Indian. He's opening the batting. He's left-handed and provides matchup protection. That's actually quite a valuable player. And then you remember as well that if you're at the league average, you're actually better than quite a lot of the players that are starters. So you're actually quite good, if that makes sense. So yeah, got that. I think he's right. Home venue is the Wankhede Stadium. We didn't really talk about this too much, but last year it was a bit of a Pacers graveyard with the economy at about 10 and over, down at 8.2 if you were a spinner, but 10 and over if you were bowling seam. I wonder whether that's got a little bit to do with the weakness of the Mumbai Indians seam attack and obviously the power of the Mumbai Indians batting lineup. So that might be slightly inflated, but bear that in mind. I think Bumrah should correct that somewhat, but that's what to expect from the venue. I think predictions-wise that they're a very, very good bet for the playoffs. I would say they're probably the best team in the IPL, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they will make the playoffs, but they're the on-paper best team. And if I was forced to, with a gun to my head, pick a winner of the IPL, it would be the Mumbai Indians. They're 4-1 with the bookies. So what's that mean? They'd win 1 in 5 tournaments. That seems about right. Don't know what you think. Max, you haven't given your thoughts on Mumbai Indians for a moment. Do you think they're the favourites?
I can't think of a side that's got more in their locker than the Mumbai Indians. They can win because they can win in different ways. They can just bat you out the game. Bumrah could destroy you on his own because he's ridiculous. It's going to be a real ask for teams to overcome the Mumbai Indians. I mean, I think they've got to be a shoe-in for the playoffs with the side they've got, which is a surefire way of making sure they don't get there. Anything can happen in a one-off game, So there's that, and that's why teams don't always win tournaments when it comes to a final. But in terms of whether they're going to make the playoffs, I think they have to be, odds on for finishing in the top 4 because they just look so strong with Hardik coming back. It's such a boost having someone like that in your side when you've got all the rest of those, like you said, Sky, Ishan Kishan, like Bumrah. Yeah, they're laughing. They are laughing.
Cool. Right, let's wrap up there. Only slight grey cloud is that with the T20 World Cup coming up, I wouldn't be stunned if Hardik Pandya was sort of limited in terms of how much he can bowl. But we don't know that, so I've chosen to assume that he will bowl a lot and make them really good. Any final words, Ross?
Who are we doing next?
The next team that we'll be doing is the Sunrisers Hyderabad.
Oh,
yeah. So we'll take a break then, and we'll come back and we'll do the Sunrisers Hyderabad.